Hello and welcome everyone. Welcome to the full moon lunar eclipse in sidereal Taurus guided releasing practice. This is November 29th, of course, 2020. I don't know where June came from. Maybe something I was reading earlier today. Welcome everyone. It's good to be here. I'm going to take a moment and kind of step back and make sure I have everything configured properly for tonight's broadcast live in the Facebook group, the Sidereal Insights Astrology community on Facebook. And we're also live streaming to YouTube right now, it looks like. So I'm just going to make sure everything's working properly. We've got a couple of viewers on YouTube. If you want to just pop in and let me know if you can see me and hear me okay. We may have a couple of viewers join us on Facebook as well. That's where we usually get most of our viewers, but that's where we've been live streaming from the longest as well. So welcome to tonight's broadcast. I'm Phaedra, for those of you who might be new to the channel, to Mystick, Physick, Astrology, to the live streams. I'm the astrologer and artist of Mystick, Physick, Astrology, and I use Western sidereal astrology in my practice. The idea being to help you reconnect with your soul purpose and remember why you came into this world to begin with. That's really my ultimate goal. And with these broadcasts, what I'd like to do is kind of give you the tools and information that you need to arm yourself to respond to your transits rather than react to them. Basically, to consciously use the energy of the transiting planets to affect your life in a positive way, because we can use astrology to do that. And I do see I'm getting a bit of an error on YouTube. I'm going to pause just for a moment and check on things. It's saying it's having trouble on YouTube. Let me check the stream from my end. Everything looks good. I'm going to go ahead and start the recording. Just in case, that way if we have any issues, we'll be able to tap back into the recording. Sometimes that happens, especially when we're trying to broadcast to YouTube for some reason. That's where we seem to have the biggest challenges. Let me check on Facebook real quick. Hi, Danielle. She's here. She says she can hear us and see us. Okay, that's great. I'm so glad to see that you're here. I'm going to try and do my best to bounce between these two tabs for YouTube and Facebook tonight, because I see we have viewers on both places, and I want to catch your comments if you're commenting while we're live. But welcome, eclipse energy. I don't know how y'all have been feeling this, but oh my goodness, today I have just felt like a pendulum, like we're at this point of great pause in between a shift. I don't know how things have felt for y'all. That's how I have been feeling for much of today. Like, you know, you're in that no space between the in-breath and the out-breath, and things are about to reverse direction. I felt that very, very much. And I wonder if that's maybe kind of the lingering effect of the Venus-Uranus opposition that we've been having. Our eclipse isn't exact until overnight tonight. If I'd thought about this, I probably would have done this video yesterday evening and not tonight, since it's so close to when the actual eclipse is, and I like to have these ready for our folks who are watching on the other side of the world from me in time for the lunation to actually happen. And I didn't really kind of plan that far ahead. I just went, oh, it's on the 30th. We must do this on the 29th. And really, I probably should have done it on the 28th, but that's all right. I'm going to get my notes in front of me. I've got Danielle pulled up. I can see if you comment, Danielle, and then help me remember to check on the YouTube stream too, if you would. And we'll get diving right in. So a full moon in Taurus. Wow. This one can be a bit of a handful just because of, I think, how we experience Taurus energy in our lives. But this is a full moon where we're going to take a closer look at complacency and how complacency can keep us stagnant and stuck in places that we've long outgrown. That's what eclipses do, is they shift us out of places or dynamics or situations or relationships that we've long outgrown and just have been reluctant to shed or change or let go of. eclipses kind of tend to force the issue. And I included, I think, one link to the Eclipse Essentials video in the video description. I'll circle back around afterwards and add a link to the video that I just did last Monday on the November and December 2020 eclipse season, where I talked about the astrology of today specifically. We're going to kind of repeat a lot of that content tonight on this broadcast, but I also talked about the upcoming eclipse December 14th, and so you may want a little bit more information about that. But tonight we're going to be exploring complacency and stubbornness and how they can hold us back and keep us from tapping into our full potential, and how we can really use an eclipse like tonight to get in touch with our values and our priorities and open our life to the things that we actually really, really want, right? This is the last full moon of the year. I guess maybe not. Maybe we'll have one more right at the end of December. I think we actually might. Hold on. I'm going to move my burning bowl, the bowl that we do all the dirty deeds of burning, what we're letting go of in. Let me take a look. I think right at the very, very end of December. Yeah, on the 29th again, we have our full moon in Gemini. So, not quite the last full moon of the calendar year, but very close. And it's definitely the last lunar eclipse of the calendar year. So really, it's the perfect time in that sense to wrap up anything you've left unfinished. Who wants to be busy finishing things when we're supposed to be celebrating the new year come December 29th, right? No one. So get those things finished up now before the holiday season really gets underway. Wrap up anything that you left unfinished and get ready to leave it behind in 2020, right? That's the idea. Leave it behind in 2020 so that you can make space for everything that 2021 has to offer, which hopefully is one hell of a lot considering 2020 was, I was going to say it was such a letdown. 2020 was more than a letdown, I think we could safely say. Just checking on our YouTube channel just quickly. But thank you for joining me on the broadcast tonight. We're going to talk about, in the first part of the broadcast, we're going to talk about the astrology of this lunar eclipse in Taurus, what we can expect from it. We'll talk a little bit about how we can use it in part 2. I will run through just really quickly what rising sign this is taking place in, or what house this is taking place in for each of you according to your sidereal rising sign. And then in part 3, that's where we get into the good stuff. So stick around for part 3. That's where we talk about the archetype of Taurus. We talk about the themes of Taurus. And for this year, I have some brand new prompts that are based a little bit in part on what I came away with from the chart analysis when I took a little bit of a closer look at the astrology of this full moon lunar eclipse in particular. I came away with some really good, I think, juicy questions that will serve us well as we start to make plans for the coming year about, what it is we want to do, what we want to accomplish, right? So let's dive into that. Let's dive into that first conversation about this full moon in Taurus and what it looks like. So Venus, of course, rules, right? She has rulership of Taurus and she has rulership of Libra. So she rules this full moon from her home sign of Libra. So she's in her other sign in Libra, well positioned. That's nice. She's opposite Uranus, which is kind of a challenge. Uranus throws sudden curveballs our way. He's responsible for sudden changes of events, reversals of fortune. And I think with Venus, we really could be talking about a reversal of fortune given her rulership of money. We could be talking about a sudden change of heart in terms of a relationship matter, given that she has an association with love and relationships and things like that. She is almost exactly conjunct the ascendant, the transiting ascendant at the moment of the eclipse, which is kind of a fun bit of energy to work with. I would definitely consider that worth encouraging you to tap into and act on. And square the midheaven this go round. Now, also with this full moon, we have Mercury sextiling our little party of Pluto, Jupiter, Saturn going on right on the cusp of sidereal Sagittarius and Capricorn. And so that's going to kind of touch off some additional energies. Now, we're past exact on Venus's opposition to Uranus. So I think whatever that's really kind of triggering we're probably already dealing with it. We're probably already facing it. And the lunar eclipse arrives in the aftermath of it while we're figuring out how to deal with it. So don't be too worried or concerned about that opposition to Uranus right now in this moment. Odds are, if it affects you, you've already been given whatever information that is, and your full moon is really just you taking steps to work that into your life, whatever those changes are. So don't be going through this expecting something new to happen out of the blue. Probably whatever Uranus is triggering, if he's affecting you, has likely already taken place, because we're several minutes past exact once the eclipse actually hits. And so don't stress too much about that. Just know that whatever that was, it was likely to be pretty destabilizing. That's what Uranus does. He destabilizes things. Taurus is an earth sign, right? And he's literally a sign of stability. He's fixed earth, right? And so often it takes a sudden jolt like Uranus to get Taurus to move, like a cattle prod. Think of it that way, right? An electric shock to the derriere. That's what this could very well have represented for folks who it was affecting. But like we're saying, that upheaval is likely to come in the form of sudden change of heart, involving a partnership or money matter, or sudden reversal of fortune. Whatever it is could change the status of the relationship. It could change the status of the deal. Maybe not overtly, instantly in the outer world, but at least in terms of how we assess it, in terms of its benefit to us, the reward that we get out of it, whatever is the return on our investment, right? Venus is very much concerned with return on investment. It also could also trigger a change in the status of how we perceive the relationship or perceive the deal, how we value it. Does it suddenly lose a degree of priority in our lives due to this unexpected shift that Uranus has triggered for us? Now, odds are, as we move forward, coming out of this full moon, whatever these changes are that the eclipse has exposed, whatever the changes are that Uranus may have wrought for us, whatever those changes are, in all likelihood, we are left in a place such that we can successfully rebuild from a much stronger foundation as we move forward out of this, right? And isn't that what's really ideal in the long run, is to be able to rebuild from a much stronger foundation, from much more solid footing. We don't want to be building on shaky ground, on unstable ground, anything that could leave us in the lurch, given just the right jolt. That's not what we want. So as we move forward in doing that, this is something that I talked about in the video about eclipses. As we move forward in rebuilding from that stronger, more stable foundation, this lunar eclipse is inviting us to really dig deep in examining what really matters. So we're very much encouraged to follow our desires. That's what Venus on the ascendant is about. It's about following our desires. And as we do that, as we follow our desires, as we examine what really matters, we're encouraged to ask ourselves some very meaningful questions. And I have jotted down some of those that kind of came to mind as I was looking at the chart, as we were having the chart and I were having our dialogue. It was speaking to me, I guess you could say. So I jotted down some of the questions that it was like screaming at us to be asking. First and foremost, what gives you a sense of security? I think that's probably one of the most meaningful questions that we can be asking ourselves right now. What gives you a sense of security? What even gives you a sense of financial stability? This is a good question to ask. And like I called out in the earlier video, you'll know I'm asking what gives you a sense of, not what gives you security, what gives you financial stability, because we don't ever really have that as a tangible thing. In part due to the influence of planets like Uranus that are meant to destabilize. They're here to bring in the unexpected. We're never guaranteed security, not long term, not throughout the entire course of our lives. The only thing we're ever really guaranteed is change, and that we'll have to deal with that. Eclipses like to remind us of this very fact, right? We can achieve financial stability for a period of time, but there's no guarantee that it's always 100% lasting. And so really, while we may feel like we have security or financial stability, it's really only a feeling, and it's the feeling that we're after. So that's why I pose these questions this way. What gives you a sense of security? Because you don't ever really have security. You can only ever really have the sense that you have it, right? What gives you a sense of financial stability? What creates that feeling inside of you that makes you say, yes, I'm safe and secure financially. I don't need to worry. What do you find comfortable, right? What makes you feel good? What makes you feel comforted? What do you find comforting? Okay. Taurus is very much about comfort. All types of comfort, anything that engages our senses, right? But we have Uranus in the mix this time around. So I also want you to consider, how do you deal with disruptions? Or do you? If you don't, or you do but maybe not so well, consider, how can you deal with them better? How can you arm yourselves? What tools do you need? What things do you need to have in place for yourself to help arm you to better deal with disruptions in your life? And if your life is not designed to help you deal with disruptions, what can you do? What can you have in place that might give you a little bit more stability to respond to disruptions when they arrive? Because they will, and they do. I also would invite you to consider, what gets you out of your comfort zone. There's a big bit in this full moon about comfort zones and what gets you out of them. And then finally, these last couple, I think they're kind of curious. One of them still, again, ties into the Venus on the ascendant. And that is, are you being motivated by your vanity or by your values? I think that's a pretty deep one. A person could spend tonight's releasing practice just dealing with that topic from that leaping off point. Are you being motivated by your vanity or by your values? And then finally, I think this is a big one to do once a year anyway. And I think year end is a great time to tackle this one, because typically as we begin the coming year, a lot of us are in planning mode, right? And this is a good one to always take a look at before you jump into planning mode. Have your priorities changed? Sometimes things in life change just enough, or what life brings us alters the course or the path of our life just enough. Sometimes it's something new that we're exposed to, a new place or a new person who highlights something that maybe we've not had the opportunity to experience before. Suddenly we get to experience and we realize, oh, we would really appreciate having more of this in our lives. Or, maybe a little less. Maybe I don't like quite so much upheaval, quite so much disruption, excitement, or spontaneity, right? So there's different ways that we can experience things throughout life that can give us a clearer perspective on our own values and priorities. But oftentimes we might have that shift, but we don't stop to adjust our game plan in response to that shift in values and priorities. Sometimes that shift in values and priorities is such that we need to take the whole game plan and throw it out the window and start fresh from zero, from a blank piece of paper. So consider, is that the case? Has 2020 shown you that to be true? I think for a lot of folks that may very well be the case. But whatever it is, this particular full moon, this lunar eclipse, invites us to really articulate our values, to get clear and to get specific, and to really focus on what do you really want, and then to take action towards that. That's the big thing, right? This lunar eclipse, for as destabilizing as it has been, it encourages us to move towards love and genuine partnership, not the appearance of partnership, genuine partnership. And I want to leave you on this note with my assessment of this particular chart for the lunar eclipse. Watch for good news. I think there's a chance that folks who are affected could have some good news coming up in the days after the lunar eclipse itself. If you have questions or comments, let me know. I'm going to pop over and check our comments on YouTube, take a peek at the comments on Facebook, and we'll keep going. We've pretty well wrapped it for part 1 of the broadcast. So we're going to move into part 2, where we take a closer look at which house this is falling into for each of you according to your sidereal rising sign. And so if you already know all that stuff, you're pretty familiar with the houses in astrology, you already know your chart like the back of your hand, feel free to take a breather and we'll just plunge in and get this knocked out of the way. And then we'll circle back around for part 3, where we talk about the themes, the archetype, and some prompts for our releasing practice. And hopefully I'm armed with a backup lighter this time so that I can actually take care of my business on camera here. All right, for Aries rising, of course, this is a 2nd house full moon for you. So of course that has to do with earned income and expenses, has to do with wealth and possessions, movable assets. So things that you own that aren't real estate, money that you earn from the work that you do with your own 2 hands, your 6th house, money that you earn through your 6th house activity, expenses, like we said, your values, your sense of self-worth, all of those things are 2nd house items. And a full moon in that house, if you took my advice and took action to expand your income or increase your income 6 months ago when we had the new moon in Taurus, then you may be seeing that those efforts pay off right about now. That's why I always encourage you, when you do have a new moon in your 2nd house, to do something to expand your income in that way. For Taurus, this will be a 1st house new moon. So basically your birthday new moon if you have Taurus rising. This, of course, is appearance and self-expression. It's your behavior, your mannerisms, the way you interact in the world, in your environment, the role that you take on in the world, the physical body, your identity and your personality to some degree, how you show up in the world. That's what the 1st house represents. But when it's your birthday full moon, it's your birthday. You've got things to finish up right now. Finish up whatever is calling to you most, and put a big old shiny bow on it when you're done. For Gemini rising, this will be a 12th house full moon for you. So privacy and seclusion are 12th house themes. Spirituality, private life, things that take place behind closed doors. It also includes our unconscious mind and our unconscious beliefs, our unconscious programming. Escapist tendencies and addictions are 12th house. Highly personal and private projects or solo projects. Our spiritual practices, our spiritual journeys, meditation, institutions of seclusion, those sorts of things. For Cancer, this is going to be 11th house full moon for you. So friends, organizations, hopes and dreams. And if you have been working on a long-held hope or dream, Cancer, this is the full moon to put the finishing touches on it and get ready to launch it into the world. For Leo, this will be a 10th house full moon for you. So 10th house, of course, has to do with your professional life, right? Your public life. It's awards, recognition, your career, achievement, status and reputation, those sorts of things. For Virgo, this will be a 9th house full moon. International affairs, long distance travel, including international travel, immigration, things like that. Publishing and broadcasting, long distance broadcasting, television, live streaming, those sorts of things. Legal and higher education, religious matters, those all fall under the 9th house. Also law. If I didn't say legal matters already, I might have. For Libra, this will be an 8th house full moon for you. So that has to do with other people's money, other people's resources that are at your disposal, including inheritance monies, your partner's income, estates, taxes and insurance monies that are due to you or that you owe. And it can include investment earnings, bonus and commission income if you earn money in that way. Also loans, that sort of thing. And then the 8th house also relates to things like death, rebirth, transformation, psychology, healing, research, and investigation. Anything where you have to do prolonged deep digging for details, for secrets, for private information. Okay. For Scorpio, this will be a 7th house full moon for you. So that has to do with partnership and marriage, including business partnerships. It has to do with our relationships with other people in general, although if you're experiencing an eclipse aspecting your descendant, it probably has to do with your immediate long-term committed relationship or a business partnership that you're in. Of course, the descendant can also relate to things that we reject about ourselves or what we tend to project onto other people, the shadow side. So full moons in the 7th house are a great opportunity to do some shadow work if that's something that you're into doing. For Sagittarius, of course, this will be a 6th house full moon for you. So work, health, pets, daily routines, employees, your schedules and habits, things like that. A full moon in your 6th house is a great time to let go of bad habits, unhealthy foods that you are trying to get away from eating so much of. Run them out of your fridge and don't buy them anymore. Okay? Use the 6th house for eliminating things from your diet. 6th house, the full moon in the 6th house for eliminating things from your diet. And when it's a new moon in the 6th house, you add good food to your diet, right? For Capricorn, this will be a 5th house full moon for you. So creativity, children, love and romance, not marriage, right? True love is what we consider a 5th house theme. Marriage is the 7th house. That's partnership. And that's because you can have love without marriage and marriage without love, right? But the 5th house, this is about the heart. This is the house of Leo, right? Leo rules the heart. So it has to do with pleasurable activities, which of course is love. Has to do with the generative ability. So creativity, things we do with our hands, hobbies, sports, risk-taking, all sorts of good fun stuff like that. Okay. For Aquarius, this will be a 4th house full moon for you. So home, property, family, themes related to your residence, where you live, or your residential status. It can also relate to your parents, either one or both. And the 4th house also has to do with later life. Okay. And for Pisces, finally, this will be a 3rd house full moon for you. Travel and communication that happen local to you. Short distance travel, I mean. By that, can also relate to transportation. It can also relate to education, communication, writing, things like that. The 3rd house also relates to your immediate environment, your siblings, your neighbors, your extended family, things like aunts, uncles, cousins, that sort of thing. If anyone has questions about any of the houses, let me know in the comments just below the video. This is a good time to ask. If you want clarity, if you have questions about any of that, some other astrological traditions place different associations on some of the houses. If you are familiar with Vedic astrology, you'll know Vedic astrology places family with the 2nd house. They place income from a business with the 11th house. So things like that. It just kind of depends on your tradition that you come from. I don't necessarily believe that any of them are invalid. But I think that you have to kind of take it as a whole from the context that it comes out of as you're looking at what the significance of each of the houses is in astrology. But now what we're going to do is move on to talking about Taurus as an archetype and what Taurus themes are. Now, like we were saying earlier, Taurus is fixed earth. This is stubborn as hell. It's symbolized by the bull, right? And we associate the bull with stubbornness, with bullheadedness, with bullishness, with resistance of all types. Also, sometimes with anger. We associate the bull with anger on rare occasion. But this is the archetype of the builder. It's also, in some ways, the archetype of the banker. This is about the wealth of the earth, right? Gold and jewels. The nature lover and the hedonist. That's a bit of the Venusian influence, right? The musician. This taps into Venusian notions of harmony and enjoyment and luxury and pleasures of the senses. And we tend to talk about Taurus as being a sensual sign. And what we mean by that is exactly that, things that engage the senses and the pleasures of the senses. Not sensual in the way that you might traditionally think of it, but things that are beautiful to look upon, to admire, things that smell good, things that taste good, things that feel good to your hands or against your skin. So when we say Taurus is a sensual sign, that's how we mean it. Taurus is engaged through the senses and activated through the senses. And this is the association with luxury, with riches, with things that are worth enjoying, right? And appreciating. And isn't that really what love is the epitome of our ability to appreciate someone, right? To show a person or a thing how we value it. So some Taurus keywords, some Taurus themes. Sensual, we were talking about already as one of them. Materialistic is another. And I think in large part, it's because this has to do with Venus. It has to do with money and wealth. It has to do with Taurus. It has to do with the earth, right? It has to do with the riches of the earth in a sense. And that is materialism. Our senses are engaged by the material world. And Taurus is that sensual energy, that sensual dynamic. It's very indulgent, but because of this, it also has the capacity to be lazy, right? It also has the capacity to be argumentative. So maybe not angry so much. We tend to think of that as an Aryan quality. We associate it with Aries and Mars, but argumentative, bullheaded, stubborn, fixed in their positions, set in their ways. But at the same time, there's positive that can be associated with this type of Taurian fixity, right? So patience would be a good example. Loyalty would be a good example. Endurance. Taurus is very enduring energy. It's also very tranquil, right? It's very peaceful. It's also very affectionate and abundant. Okay, Taurus is also very much an abundant kind of energy. So as part of the Taurus, Scorpio, 2nd and 8th house axis, Taurus speaks to personal values and self-worth. Okay, so that's where those themes are coming from. It's where it describes, the 2nd house especially can describe how we seek security or where we find security. And Taurus can be a very comfort-seeking sign, a very security-seeking sign. Discomfort, however, leads to growth. And the flip side of that is that too much security-seeking, which is what we tend to do with our Taurian energy, too much security-seeking can lead to stagnation, right? Too much fixity can lead to stagnation, and that is the opposite of growth. That is atrophy, right? That's entropy, the breaking down of things. So we have to beware of getting too comfortable, right? We have to beware of boredom. Taurus is sensual as a sign, and as such, that's where we seek to have our senses stimulated. Seeking stimulation out of boredom isn't always healthy. So you need to be cognizant of what are your boredom triggers and how do you tend to seek stimulation. Is it healthy? What can you have in place that is healthy so that when that arises in you, you have a healthy habit or behavior that you can turn to rather than just, like some of us go shopping. Some of us stuff our faces with food. It just kind of depends, right? When we get bored, we seek stimulation. And that's, like I said, not always a good thing. So know how you tend to respond and know what you need to have in place to keep you from doing the unhealthy thing when those urges arise. Now, so keeping in mind, and I'm going to recap some of what we talked about in part 1, some of the questions that I said came up when we were taking a look at this chart of this eclipse more directly. And excuse me, I left my drink downstairs and I just realized that. That's too bad. So we're going to recap those questions as well. What I want you to do is keep in mind the area of life occupied by the house that the area of life represented, excuse me, I can't talk today. The area of life represented by the house that Taurus occupies in your sidereal natal chart. So your Faye and Bradley sidereal natal chart. I want you to consider the following prompts and questions. Now, because this is also an eclipse, like normally I would tell you follow according to the house this is in, but it may be better serving to you to just encourage you to go where you feel led, because this is an eclipse. And one thing that as we get ready to dive into these questions and prompts, one thing that I do want to call out that I didn't touch on earlier is that because it's an eclipse, I'd strongly encourage you to do this practice twice, once for your rising sign, once for your sun sign, because eclipses are so much more powerful. Okay. So here we go with the prompts and recapping the questions from part 1 of the broadcast. And like I said, keeping in mind the area of your life represented by the house that Taurus occupies or not, depending on how you feel led. I want you to dig deep and examine what really matters as you choose what it is you are ready to let go of or move past or release with this full moon. Ask yourself, what gives you a sense of security? Has that become a crutch? What gives you a sense of financial stability? And if you've identified that, ask yourself why. What do you find comfortable or comforting? And what gets you out of your comfort zone so that you can grow? How do you best deal with disruptions? Are you being motivated by your vanity or by your values? How have your priorities changed? Where are you stuck in a rut? What change are you resisting? And is your resistance to that change keeping you stuck in some way? What is it that's keeping you from stepping out of your comfort zone? What comfort is it that you're not wanting to give up? And is that holding you back from growth, from your true potential? And is that area of your life starting to feel stagnant or atrophied? Why is that? What is it you're holding on to? That can be a big clue as to what you need to let go of. That feeling of stagnance or atrophy can be a big clue what you need to let go of. Okay. Where is your own stubbornness? And this is one where we have to get real. Where is your own stubbornness causing you unnecessary difficulty in life? Where is inflexibility or an unwillingness to move, to change, causing unpleasantness? And what is the underlying source or cause of the stubbornness, of the resistance? What attachment is it do you need to release so that you can move out of your immobility? Okay, I'm going to recap those here in a minute, but this is the part where we typically write down what it is we're ready to let go of and do our releasing. We set it on fire. So grab your pen and paper and get ready to take a few minutes writing that out. I'm going to turn off my keyboard so I don't accidentally put notes where they don't belong or something. We're going to check on the question feeds, the comments real quick. Awesome. And then we're going to dive into writing out what it is we release. So let me recap these. If you already kind of know, I'll let you get started. I'll recap these and then I'll get started myself. So we're asking ourselves meaningful questions and choosing what to let go of. We're supposed to be examining what really matters tonight, right? So what gives you a sense of security or a sense of financial stability? What do you find comfortable or comforting? What gets you out of your comfort zone? How do you best deal with disruptions? Are you being motivated by your vanity or your values? And how have your priorities changed? So this is a full moon to articulate your values. You want to get clear. You want to get specific about what you really want. And you want to take action towards that. Where are you stuck in a rut? What change are you resisting? What is keeping you stuck? What's keeping you from stepping out of your comfort zone? What comfort is it that you don't want to give up that's holding you back from your growth or from your true potential? Or is it a fear? Is it a fear of lack that is keeping you from stepping out of your comfort zone? Okay. Is that area of your life feeling stagnant or atrophied? Why is that? What can you do? What can you let go of to release that? To make room to invite something new in? Is laziness becoming a problem for you in that part of your life? What is it that you're resisting that's causing you to feel or be lazy, unmotivated, right? Can you give yourself some kind of reward to be motivated? Where is your own stubbornness causing you unnecessary difficulty in life? Where is inflexibility or an unwillingness to move creating unpleasantness? Let's see tonight if we can identify the underlying source or cause of that stubbornness or resistance and let it go. If we can we can identify the underlying cause, the underlying attachment that you can release that might help you move out of your immobility. Okay, so go ahead and write down what it is you're ready to let go of tonight. Like I said, feel free, if you have time, do it for your sun and your rising sign. We're going to take a pause right here and everyone write out what it is you're releasing. And then as soon as we're done, we're going to do the big release on camera here. And we'll tackle it all together. Let's see. I'm Gemini rising. That's going to be 12th house. Okay. Ooh, goodness. This is big. All right. If anyone needs additional time, please let me know. I'm just going to double check the comments real quick on both channels here. All right. I just did mine for my 12th house. If I was doing it for my 5th house, that would be for my sun sign. So I just did it for my rising sign. I was encouraging you all to do it for your sun and your rising sign. Get twice as much bang for your buck. Because it is an eclipse, I think it's a really, really good idea to do that. I did not, but I probably will. I just may circle around and go back and do it for my sun sign after the fact. That would be the 5th house releasing. But for now, I did it for my Gemini rising, which sets it up as a 12th house releasing. And now that I have the stream back in place, I'm going to grab my notes. I don't think I have anything more really in my notes to talk about other than there might be some stuff at the end that I put in. I think we pretty well covered all the main stuff I wanted to touch on. Although I did want to remind you, as I reminded folks in my eclipse broadcast, it is a full moon. If you charge crystals, some folks say that you shouldn't do it during an eclipse, that the energy can be erratic. That's fine if that's your practice not to. I was given specific guidance that I should this time around, that I very, very firm guidance, but what I'm charging are pearls, so maybe that's why. That's a very Venusian thing. Venus and pearls. However, if you have things you want to charge, this is a full moon, so you might consider doing that. Some traditions encourage you not to. It just kind of depends on, I think it has a lot to do with how eclipses, I think, interact with our own charts personally, whether something is advisable like that on an eclipse or not. Certainly with Uranus in play, that can make a difference, but I would trust your own intuition in this regard. A lot of times it has to do with, well, what is the potential for us? So a more personal reading might give a better indication. But once you're done writing out what it is you're releasing, we do the actual releasing piece, and that is where we read it out loud. We state aloud our intent to the universe to let go of whatever this is. Because we're wanting to make space, right? We're wanting to make space for something new to come into our lives and to move past what is old. And like I said, sometimes the eclipses do that for us, whether we want them to or not, right? So here's what I wrote. I release any unconscious belief or buy-in. This is kind of interesting in how it ties to Venus and self-worth and values. I release any unconscious belief or buy-in I may have internalized through my relational interactions with others of my true value or sense of self-worth as a partner or as an individual. I release any judgments or assumptions I may have around my own self-worth, and I release these relational experiences with gratitude and love for the lessons they brought to me. And that's the whole point. I might have to get the back up later. We want to be releasing them with gratitude and love, right? Gratitude and love because they brought us lessons. I'm just going to give up. We'll use the short lighter and risk burning our hand. Because they were here to teach us something while they were in our lives, and that served a purpose. And as we learn those lessons, we outgrow things. They no longer serve that purpose. And that's when it's time to release them and let them go. And consciously doing that and consciously thanking them, honoring them with love and gratitude is a way to honor that experience and honor what they brought to our lives while they were here. And there we go. That went up in flames. It's all like ash and a little bit of embers still going right now. But that's what you do. So just state out loud your intention to release it. State it out aloud to the universe that you release it with your gratitude for the lesson that it brought. Light it on fire. Do it in a fire-safe place. Please be responsible. Or if you don't want to light it on fire, you can't light it on fire, you can tear it up into tiny little bits and release it up into the air. That also works. That part, this is really, it's just a physical act that backs up a metaphysical intention and just kind of underscores it to the universe. So it's not strictly necessary, but if you do burn it in a fire safe place, such as a fireplace or a fire pit or a barbecue. Keep a fire extinguisher handy. I encourage you to keep a fire extinguisher handy when you're doing these sorts of things. Do it in your kitchen sink where there's a water source nearby. If you don't have a fire pit or fireplace, just be very careful. Be fire safe, please, when you do these. And share in the comments below, even if you're catching the replay, please. We love it when you also share what it is you have outgrown or are ready to move beyond, what it is you're letting go of. Oftentimes, we take inspiration from the things that others are going through, that they, through the lessons that they're also learning as well. And so that's one of the fun parts about sharing what it is we're letting go of at the full moon, or sharing the intentions that we're setting for ourselves at the new moon, is because it can be really, really inspiring. Give us ideas for the next time for ourselves, what we want to involve in our practice with the lunations. But I want to thank everyone for joining me. Thank you, Danielle, for being on live. Folks have any questions or comments, please let me know. I'll follow the comments after the video is over, and that way if you do want to share your experience, I'll be around to see your comments and to reply. So if you have questions, please feel free to include those. And then join me Monday coming up, just tomorrow, the 30th, for the next installment of the Sidereal Insights Astro Update. Tomorrow is the actual eclipse for the full moon lunar eclipse in Taurus, but we're actually going to be talking tomorrow on the Astro Update about the upcoming December 14th solar eclipse in Scorpio. And also want to invite you to like this video. If you got any benefit from it, please share it with your friends. Tag them in the comments. Share it through social media or email. If you know someone who might get some mileage out of what we talked about today, the practice that we did today, be sure and subscribe to the Mystick Physick Astrology YouTube channel. And stay tuned as we have more announcements for the coming year. We're switching things up, taking a different approach with how we want to present things, and we'll have the Ultimate Astrological Planner ready for you here very, very soon. So stay tuned for an announcement on that. And thank you so much for joining me. We will, like I said, see you all again next time. Thank you so much, Danielle. You're very welcome. Bye-bye.